All right, guys. So it's stories like this that really frustrate me about the Republican Party, because it reminds me of just how soft and weak the Republican Party is compared to the Democrats, in the sense that Democrats, when they have an opportunity to go after Republicans, they go for the throat. Okay, they're going for the home run. Okay, they're trying to go for everything. Republicans, on the other hand, they're totally fine with, you know, getting on first base. They don't ever go for the home run. They don't ever go all the way in on Democrats to try to punish them or to try to make them face consequences for their actions. They never do. They're always soft on Democrats. However, Democrats are never soft on Republicans, and this is why Democrats typically win over Republicans, because Republicans simply are soft. Now, Kari Lake obviously is not a soft Republican. She's an example of one of the very few Republicans that is actually tough, okay? However, in this situation right here, this really does outline, in my opinion, why Democrats tend to get over on Republicans, because you never see Republicans retaliate against Democrats like this, the way that Katie Hobbs is retaliating against Kari Lake for simply questioning or challenging a close election, which I believe that you should be allowed to do, right? I don't think it's a bad thing for democracy. It's actually a great thing for democracy when people are able to challenge elections that are close. At the very least, it ensures that our system is running properly if we're allowed to challenge it in court. If the system is fair and free, like they say, then you don't have anything to worry about, right? At the end of the day, democracy will win. However, when you have something to hide, you get upset about it and you want to cry foul simply because, you know, your opponent says, hey, you know, let's take a second or third look to make sure the results are legitimate. Again, that kind of seems to be what is happening here with Democrats, as they're going after Kari Lake. They're trying to sanction her and basically punish her for thought, right? For daring to challenge the Arizona governor race that had a ton of problems on election day. Okay, I mean, these problems were revealed in court. Now, the judge says that all the votes were still counted, right? And the election was, you know, 100% fair and legitimate, and that's fine. But considering the problems that happened on that day that we know happened, I don't think that it is frivolous for Kari Lake to say, hey, let's take a second or third look at this. Let's actually make sure that this was done legitimately. They're essentially, again, trying to financially break her for it, right? And I want to talk about this because I think that what's happening here, right? I want to compare it to another situation in which a Democrat was in a very similar situation as Kari Lake. Not the exact same situation, but the response is totally different. And this is why, again, Democrats kind of get ahead of Republicans, and Republicans just keep losing because they're too soft. So, yes, Katie Hobbs is seeking more than $500,000 in sanctions for Kari Lake and her lawyers simply for challenging the election. Now, I want to play this news clip so that you guys can get a better understanding of what's going on here. And then I'm going to just read a tiny bit about what Katie Hobbs is asking for here. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about another election that I'm going to compare this to, in which a salty Democrat lost and challenged the election, or put it this way, challenged the way that the election was done. And Republicans didn't do this, right? They didn't retaliate like this when maybe they should have. So without further ado, let's go ahead and play the news clip.
Being here for Fox 10 News at noon, motions were filed in Maricopa County Court seeking sanctions against Republican gubernatorial candidate Kari Lake and her lawyers after a judge threw out her election lawsuit over the weekend.
Now, Lake lost the race for Arizona governor to Democratic candidate Katie Hobbs. That is Democratic candidate-elect Katie Hobbs, now governor-elect Katie Hobbs, by more than 17,000 votes. So Fox 10's Justin Lum joining us live now with more. Justin?
Troy, Renee, good afternoon. Katie Hobbs has officially joined in on Maricopa County's motion for sanctions, but here is exactly what she is asking for. She filed an application for attorney's fees and expenses. Court documents say she's requesting about $37,000 paid in sanctions. The argument cites character of work, saying this was an expedited election proceeding requiring extensive work by her counsel. Hobbs also saying that since the judge denied Lake's claim entirely and that Hobbs was victorious, she should be given those attorney fees back. On Saturday, coming off a 2-day trial, Judge Peter Thompson found that the court did not have any clear evidence of widespread misconduct that could have impacted the result of the 2022 general election. Lake's team focused on ballot printer issues in Maricopa County, asking the judge to declare her governor or order a revote in the county. The challenge here was to prove that any misconduct was intentionally made to deny her a victory. As for what's next, via Twitter, Lake says she does plan to appeal the ruling. She has until 5 this evening to respond in court, and of course we'll keep you updated on the latest. Reporting live, Justin Lum, Fox 10 News.
Yeah, so you've seen that, you heard that. Now, I'm going to read a little bit here, and then I want to compare this to another familiar governor's race that I want to talk about here. That I think, again, it reveals a whole lot of hypocrisy here from the Democrats in regards to the reaction to what Kari Lake is doing. So let's read here. Arizona's governor-elect, Katie Hobbs, asked a judge on Monday for more than $500,000 in sanctions against her defeated rival, Kari Lake, and her lawyers for filing a, quote, frivolous lawsuit aiming to overturn the results of the Grand Canyon State's 2022 gubernatorial midterms. Quote, courts are established by Arizona's constitution and statutes to resolve actual disputes between parties. Maricopa County Deputy Attorney Thomas P. Liddy wrote in a 15-page memo. They do not exist so that candidates for political office can attempt to make political statements and fundraise, and they should not be used to harass political opponents and sow completely unfounded doubts about the integrity of elections. All of those things happen in this matter. Yeah, now I want to be 100% honest about this, because it's not just Katie Hobbs, Democrats, but also some of the Republican county election officials are also kind of in on this as well too, because the establishment Republican Party does not like Kari Lake. So I want to make that clear as well too. Which again is all the more reason why I think that the Republican Party is weak, okay? Because the establishment is actively against people like Kari Lake. When Democrats don't do this to their fellow colleagues that are on the fringe, okay? Just to put it in the best way I can. So let's read more here. Made available on the court's website later in the day, Hobbs filed a separate motion for sanctions seeking $550,210 in fees, the vast majority of which, at $457,032.50, would go to their attorneys at the Elise Law Group. The firm is founded by Democrat Party lawyer Mark Elise, who assisted in defending against Trump's 2020 post-election lawsuits. The governor-elect, who currently serves as Arizona's Secretary of State, also wants Lake to pay $83,725.50 in definite fees and expenses. The Maricopa County is seeking a much smaller amount in attorney's fees, $25,050. Now, here's the thing. What is happening here? Well, I think Katie Hobbs here, again, she's trying to punish Kari Lake for essentially challenging her victory, right? Just challenging the victory, which again, in my opinion, I think is fair game. The accusations made it to trial, okay, which that means it was worth taking a look at, and Kari Lake lost. It is what it is. As of right now, I mean, she's going to appeal, okay, but again, I wouldn't get my hopes up on it, but I'm just saying what Katie Hobbs is doing here is not just seeking, you know, just some attorney's fees or whatever just to recoup her loss. No, she's trying to get her Democrat colleagues paid, right? That's what she's trying to do. She's trying to get her Democrat colleagues paid, right? While also at the same time trying to bankrupt Kari Lake and try to act like it's a crime for Kari Lake to fundraise, which again, is interesting to me because here's how I look at that. If people want to send money to candidates to challenge the election, that is the right of the people to do that if they want to do that, right? I mean, I think everybody has a right to make an educated decision about who they want to send money to and for what cause. If people want to send money to Kari Lake for her to challenge the election, so what? This is no different than what Democrats did with Stacey Abrams, which I believe is a great comparison when you look at how Democrats were totally fine with people sending money to Stacey Abrams for her frivolous lawsuits challenging Georgia's election practices, right, in 2018, accusing Brian Kemp, who was Secretary of State at the time, saying that, hey, it's unfair that he can oversee his own election, right, the governor's race in 2018, right? Apparently that wasn't cool Kari Lake is saying the same thing about Katie Hobbs, and, Democrats acting like that's the worst thing in the world. But Stacey Abrams has established that, hey, maybe the Secretary of State should be able to oversee their own governor's race. I'm just saying, Stacey Abrams made frivolous, unfounded claims about voter suppression, fraud, all types of other stuff, and issues with Georgia's election system, basically trying to challenge the election. And she wasn't necessarily challenging the outcome per se, but she was basically challenging their practices and saying that, it was right with fraud and stuff like that. And she fundraised off this. She fundraised off of unfounded claims of voter suppression, of systemic racism in Georgia's voting process and their elections. Millions of dollars. When, year after year, the amount of people that actually were voting and turning out to the polls in Georgia was going up, right? No evidence whatsoever of actual voter suppression. These lawsuits were thrown out. They were thrown out. Democrats had nothing to say about it, right? They were totally cool with it. Again, when it's Stacey Abrams challenging an election or a state's election practices, it's fine, right? It's fair game, right? This is good for democracy. But when it's Kari Lake doing it, oh, she's, an insurrectionist, and, she's an election denier, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Again, it's funny how this works. I don't have any problems with Stacey Abrams challenging the Georgia election process. If she's right, she's right. If she's wrong, she's wrong, right? I don't have no problems with her fundraising, because if people want to send money to Stacey Abrams to do that, that's on them. They can make their own personal choices. I'm not trying to police where people can send their money. Right? If people get duped, they get duped. It is what it is. Again, I just find it fascinating how, they were totally fine with Stacey Abrams doing this, which is the same thing that Kari Lake is doing, making some similar claims. But again, for whatever reason, they got a big problem with this. Ultimately, Republicans, though, they didn't turn around and sanction Stacey Abrams, at least not as far as I know, at least not as far as I could find, okay, from, research. They didn't go out and try to sanction Stacey Abrams for bringing frivolous lawsuits with unfounded claims to court. They didn't sanction her for that, right? They didn't say that, hey, we're going to punish you for doing this, and we're going to make sure we bankrupt you and send you a lesson to make sure you don't do this again, right? Even though she continued to make these unfounded claims, despite the fact that she lost time and time again, she continues to sow doubt in the legitimacy of the Georgia election process. Republicans just said, hey, take your L, and that's it. Again, this is the difference between Democrats and Republicans. Democrats always go for the home run. Republicans always take the high road, and Republicans don't ever seem to benefit from it, right? Maybe the Republicans in Georgia should have sanctioned the hell out of Stacey Abrams, right? Maybe they should have did the same thing that the officials in Katie Hobbs are trying to do in Arizona to Kari Lake. They should have. Why not? Even when Democrats lose, they're allowed to make claims about the election that are false, and then to spend taxpayer dollars trying to basically sow doubt in the election, aka the Trump-Russia collusion hoax, the Steele dossier. Again, they spent millions of taxpayer dollars basically trying to delegitimize the Trump win in 2016. What did Republicans do? They gave him a strongly worded response. They didn't come with any sanctions saying, hey, look, you spent taxpayer money investigating basically a conspiracy theory that was made up by Hillary Clinton, right? We should sanction you for that, right? Let's punish you for that. Again, I just feel like the Republicans always taking a high road on this stuff, man. Like, I'm not seeing where the benefit is. Democrats always go for the home run. They always go for the throat every single time. And it works. It works. Republicans are totally fine with just getting ramrodded by the Democrats and never responding, never going after them when they have an opportunity to. And that's the biggest thing that bothers me about the Republican Party. January 6th Commission, they going for the throat. Trump tax returns, they're going for the throat. The FBI invasion of Trump's home, that's them going for the throat. Democrats trying to push big tech to censor their political opponents, that's them going for the throat. Y'all remember Sidney Powell, right? You remember her? Democrats ruined her. They sanctioned the hell out of her, right? They threw every sanction they can at her. They trying to disbar her. They're doing all that, right? They're doing all that. They ruined her for trying to challenge the election. That's how Democrats move. This is how they move. Republicans can't even come out here and call for the arrest of the Roe v. Wade rioters that were attempting to try to intimidate Supreme Court justices. Can't do it. Right? Can't do it. Again, it's just the difference between the two parties is striking. Republicans are soft and weak, and Democrats are not. They're not. And that's the problem, right? That's part of the problem. Again, I'm not saying it's right what the Democrats are doing. Obviously, it's not right. But when they're playing this dirty, sometimes, again, you can't take the high road. You got to play dirty like them, okay? And, you know, Republicans just, they don't play dirty enough, man. They really don't. Like I said, I guarantee you, Kevin McCarthy is not going to execute on his promise to remove Adam Schiff and all those other people, Ilhan Omar, from their committee assignments. I guarantee he's not going to. You know, he's going to become speaker, right? If he becomes speaker, and then he'll forget about it, right? He's not going to do it. When Democrats had no issues removing Marjorie Taylor Greene from her committee assignment for something that she said before she was even in office, right? Completely unprecedented, right? But they did it anyways. I'm just saying. This is the difference between the two parties. The Republican Party needs fighters, right? We need people who understand what we're dealing with, right? The modern day Republican Party, the establishment, they don't get it, right? They're too busy trying to be in bed with the Democrats because they all take corporate money. They're all prostitutes, so they're in bed together. And they're too busy also trying not to be called racists and bigots. Again, you're not going to win being like that, right? You're not going to win being like that. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.